Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. I am your co host, Rowell Dionicio, and I'm here alongside with Francois. How are you doing, Francois?
Very good, Well, nice to be here. How are you?
I'm doing very good, and it's another good day to record. And there's a lot of updates
Mhm.
because of Mobility Field Day that just finished up last week.
Yeah, and you were lucky enough to attend as a delegate. I couldn't make it myself this this time. I was kind of jealous a little bit of you guys, but I had other engagements this time around. But yeah, it's Mobility Field Day is always a good event. We have a lot of companies come in, spend their time. You can see they're prepared as well, so they can invest a lot of their time into presenting new stuff and their the evolution of their product because they keep on coming every year. So we wanted to kind of talk about it. And this episode is regarding Juniper Networks. We wanted to kind of do those short episodes to give you guys like a summary of what they talked about. And if you want to just rewatch the entire event, you can always go on YouTube on the Tech Field channel, and there will be a playlist for Mobility Field Day 11, and you can rewatch all of the presentations on your own time. So, what did you
Yep.
think of Juniper, Roel?
Yeah, so this episode's going to be about Juniper Networks as we give an update for each company that was presenting. And Juniper Networks actually had a lot of updates to provide. I thought it was
Hmm.
a really good presentation for us, even though it was a long one. It was one of the longer presentations for us in the room. But as delegates, I thought we were all kind of engaged because of the updates. And normally, when we're talking about really like Mist, who was coming up to present. And usually, when Mist comes up to present at Mobility Field Day, there's always something new that they are announcing to everybody and all these features that
Hmm.
they either products or features that they want to share out to everyone. And so, just like clockwork, the Mobility Field Day comes around and they did announce a lot of new things. Some of these things are pretty exciting today just because if you're using Mist, it's a lot of useful features, right? Because we're talking about a lot of AI, artificial intelligence, and I think Juniper is one of the few that actually uses AI in their platform, and they'll talk about a lot of the different things of how they use AI to present the actual information to you. And so they went straight into talking about Marvis and the journey of Marvis and how it started. They continue to say how they use it internally for troubleshooting tickets. So if you submit a ticket through the Mist dashboard, it actually goes through Marvis as well. So they have
Hmm.
this efficacy rate that they love to show every single year. But one of the things that stood out to me was how they even show you how Marvis works under the hood. Um, it's something that other companies don't do, right? They don't show you a slide of how they use the different AI technologies to build
Hmm.
Marvis. Because I've been using Marvis a lot more. How about you, Francois?
Yeah, I found Marvis very useful, especially for day two operations. You know, you have your network uh, up and running, and you want to understand, what you could be improving, what pain point you may have, but you don't really see. So Marvis will kind of come in, look at a lot of data for you very fast, and give you those tips or those causes of potential problems. And initially, they added Marvis to the infrastructure, to the access points, um, and now they're trying to add Marvis or leverage Marvis intelligence for the other part of the network. You know, the switching, the wired network, and then they also announced that they wanted also to get insights from the client devices, which is huge for us on the Wi-Fi side of things because we're always blind of what the client is doing. So here, we're they started to talk about having like an application that can feed Marvis in client information, and Marvis has like the view of the entire path of the entire infrastructure, which means that it can give us very useful and actionable information for us, the operator. So it's very useful because it kind of takes away some of the complexity of modern networks and go straight to the point of what we could actually do to improve a given situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the development of Marvis Minis is really something I'm looking forward to, because now they're going to be including that to like what you said, across the network stack, not just on the access points. And so that allows us to see a new SLE called Applications SLE that'll be coming out. And first, we'll probably see it with Zoom and Teams applications, because that's the most critical right now, right? Is when someone says, "Hey,
Mhm.
I didn't have a good Zoom experience," but you want to use your network as a resource to understand why that didn't work. And so I think that's a really cool thing that they're adding to really understand the user experience. And so that's why they'll take that data from APs, the wired side, your SD WAN, and then build a model around that to even predict latency. Maybe they'll be able to use AI to say, hey,
Mhm.
there's a prediction here that something on the network will impact the quality of the user experience. Um, and then even extending that Marvis to the client side. I didn't take notes on which OS it was going to be supported on, but I'm hoping it'll work across all of them, just because that Marvis client agent will collect layer 2 info and also feed that back to the dashboard with the client insights. And so it'd be nice to see if, all right, I have a client who's having a problem, and the Marvis client knows that it's a sticky client. It's not
Mhm.
roaming to another AP, it's sticking to the same one. It'd be really cool to see that in the client insights, more useful data, right? And also being able to check the connection for the user experience, like pre-connection, post-connection. And of course, this is all just data on your organization for the Mist dashboard. It's not going to collect data for example, if you went to one campus and that's your organization, and you went to another campus that also
Mhm.
has a Mist deployment, it's not going to capture data for that environment. The other thing that Juniper had released too was doing some AP speed tests. And I know that's like a common thing that everybody does, is let me run a speed test on this network to validate whether or not it's good, right? And it's
Mhm.
funny because I saw a ticket the other day where somebody was complaining about how slow the Wi-Fi was, and they showed us their speed test, and it was like 330 megabits per second. And I was just thinking, man, that's slow nowadays, like
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. But this way, the users don't have to do that and tell you, right? Like you'll be able to have the insights to go, all right, I have an event coming in or a meeting. You can
Mhm.
pre-run these tests on a regular basis and be able to have that information at your hands. Um, but if you wanted to know anything about Wi-Fi 7, there really wasn't anything new, right? So Wes Purvis just provided information on what we're likely going to see as far as data rates when
Mhm.
Wi-Fi 7 comes out. And he said it would max out at around 26 gigabits per second for Wi-Fi 7 APs, which realistically, can we get that? Because if we're doing two spatial streams, what's that going to look like, right? And so
Mhm.
there was no new AP announcement there, but Wes did say he was seeing a uptick in the 6 gigahertz adoption, around 20 to 30% in some environments.
Mhm.
So the technology itself is maturing now. I think we're getting up there to the point where Wi-Fi 7 will be a thing, right? And we'll take advantage of that. And then he did provide updates on AFC and what they're doing, and it looks like AFC for Mist is going to be the AP64 as the first standard power AP that'll be using AFC, and the dashboard is really going to be a proxy to the AFC. I don't know what you call it, the
Provider.
operator, right?
Mhm.
And so what we don't know is like the low power indoor devices. They're they're obviously going to have to be recertified, but I guess the question is if they're going to do it. And I don't think there
Mhm.
is no answer to that right now. So if you have existing AP45s, they would have to be recertified for standard power. If it wasn't already dual certified, right? Dual certified for low power indoor and certified for standard power indoor.
You would also
But
need a GPS, right? So
yeah,
they would
and I
they would
think
add
I don't know
like a
that's
module.
Does the AP45 have that? And I'm not sure if it does.
I don't think so. Maybe, but I'm not aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. So the APs don't directly talk to AFC. They'll use the MIST dashboard as a proxy, and there are some requirements that for AFC, checking into AFC every 24 hours, things like that. The geolocation coordinates. So yeah, you need that GPS module. But in terms of hardware, there was really no new announcement other than the AP64, and then that wasn't a new announcement for Mobility Field Day. That was announced much earlier. And then they've added some cool features where I don't know if for some deployments you like to salt and pepper APs to different switches, right? Rather than putting like a whole section of a floor plan to one or two switches, maybe you want some sort of redundancy on your deployment. And so they added a feature to the dashboard where you can tell if you've got redundancy in your floor plan. If one switch failed, what does that scenario look like? What's the scope of impact of that outage if one switch went down? And so they're able to add that to the dashboard and tell you by color codes which APs connect to which switches. And so they'll use a color code like red, amber, and green to tell you whether or not you've got at least an AP, one AP in the area connected to another switch, or more than two APs connected to another switch. And I think that uses a combination of things like LLDP and also communications between the APs. So they created a visualization for that. And one of the more exciting things that I saw was this thing called dynamic spectrum capture. So imagine an error or interference that you ran into. You know how it's intermittent and you can never find it and you have to wait until it occurs? Well, MIST is now going to provide a snapshot of what that interference looked like that happened in the past and add that to something like client statistics, right? Or client insights.
The insights.
What the issue was, and you'll be able to get a screenshot of what that interference looked like. And I wanted to ask you, Francois, like, do you think that feature itself is useful?
Yeah, this is very nice. I'm very excited about this. It's similar to having the dynamic packet capture layer 2, but this is like the layer 1 equivalent of this. And like you said, sometimes, probably a lot of the time, we are blind to what's happening in layer 1 because we only look at it when we do spectrum analysis at one given time. And so the fact that we'll have the AP always keeping an eye for us on the layer 1 activity and reporting when we have issues, I think it can really open our eyes on what's going on layer 1 and help us to be more proactive on potential issues.
Yeah, and also things where people say, hey, I'm pretty sure interference is affecting the connectivity here. You'd be able to go back in time and show whether or not, right, if there was an issue with RF, the dashboard would be able to collect that for you, give you the snapshot, something you can download and also show to the end user or the client, like here's an interferer that was affecting your experience. And then I think what will end up happening is with that information and using AI and RM, the AP will be able to just change channels with that, right? So that was pretty neat. I think it's great for troubleshooting, especially not having to be on site. You could be able to just capture this information remotely, and it's already available to you. So it's not like you have to trigger it. It'll already be there. That is because it's already collecting data. The other cool thing with troubleshooting that I thought was a huge update for us was they brought in a guest person to come in remotely via Zoom during the event, and they brought in UC from Hamina, and I thought that was really interesting. Like I saw UC on there, I'm like, what's he doing here? And he and so Hamina and MIST worked together to provide a live view of what the environment looks like. So think of it as like showing validation data, right? Like a validation survey, but all of this info is being pulled via API, pulling RF data, channel widths, all of that, and you get a live view on a floor plan within the Hamina dashboard of what it currently looks like. So if you're trying to troubleshoot like coverage issues, you'd be able to see that right away. And again, another good troubleshooting utility, because if I'm remote, or this is another site that I can't get to right away, being able to pull this information is going to be incredibly useful and a time saver, just because you don't have to send somebody on site to confirm what the coverage looks like. Now, to me, and maybe I don't know, to you as well, Francois, does this mean we don't have to do validation surveys anymore?
Well, if you push this, yeah, and you try to see how everything is evolving, maybe we could see a future where we can leverage on APIs for different vendors to talk to one another and have this type of integration. And maybe that's not gonna replace some of the work we do on site when we validate. But I think we're getting close to a day where we could probably automate all of the validation we do on site. I feel like there's still like the client piece missing. If I want
Oh,
to
but
validate the Wi-Fi network,
there's
yeah,
a Marvis client agent. Do you think maybe they'd be able to tie
yeah,
that information together?
maybe. One thing that I like to do on site is validate user experience from the device that will
Hmm.
be used, and then look at the application that will be used. Um, so yeah, if they have a way to gonna do like Teams synthetic tests and
Yeah,
report, the user experience on the metric base, that would be awesome. But
I
yes,
think they're
it feels
getting
like,
there.
yeah. What I really like about this is that you can see the power of API and
Yeah,
the or cloud services, and real time you can get RM data from your Wi-Fi access points, plot that on the map, look at the heat map, and for, like you said, for day-to-day operation, this is awesome. You'll be able to see if you have Wi-Fi issues, and then you can like dynamically adjust it as well, which means that if you do have an issue, you can quickly work on a resolution. So it's
yeah,
amazing to see these integration with APIs, and I feel like it's just the beginning. We'll talk about all the vendors and stuff, but we've seen similar trends across vendors. So I feel like it's just the beginning.
yeah. And I think it's driving a lot of innovation here. And really,
Hmm.
this is where I think it's using AI to its fullest, or will be able to use AI. This feature with Hamina and Miss, I think it comes out in the next month or two, or I don't know. It's not live yet, but what I envision would be leveraging some of that Marvis client data to feed some of those heat maps as well. That would pull live
Hmm.
RF data, and maybe you'll have a Marvis client data view, because right now it's from the AP perspective. So maybe it'll either maybe feed that data and then it'll augment the heat map, or maybe you can just see what it looks like from the Marvis client point of view. Get roaming would be a good one as well. See the actual roaming, how that
Hmm.
occurs using, how you on Hamina you could use a little roaming guy. Maybe that can turn
Hmm.
into a Marvis client agent as well. And then it would be great if there you have your heat maps for signal, but what about a heat map for user experience? Like, where on this floor plan is the user experience bad for a specific application? And I think that's where a
Hmm.
lot of the AI power will come into play to put all those pieces together. We're not there yet,
Hmm.
but I think that could be a possibility in the future.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
a
that's
lot of news from Juniper. A couple of things that we didn't talk much about, but they talked about their evolution of the NAC solution, what they call the access assurance. They have evolution also on the indoor locations services. So we'll invite you guys to take a look at the actual video.
yeah,
Um,
and we'll
yeah,
include a
we're gonna
link.
close it here for yeah, we include the link for all of this. We'll close it here for these episodes. We hope that you guys got a little bit out of it, and hopefully we got you enough um, information so you can watch the entire video from Techfield there. So go watch these videos, and we'll see you guys for the next episode.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening.